Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Prep Life Podcast. This is your founder and CEO of Glam Girl Bikini, Amy Enger. And today I'm joined by my fabulous co host, Leemarie Hostetter. Hey, Lee.
Hello.
Well, we have some interesting news. So I'm going to start with that just because I feel like this is like hot off the press. I feel like every time we do a podcast, there's like new information coming out and things like that. So we also have a lot of topics. This might have to be one of those episodes that just, is a part one, part two. We had a lot of great questions. All of you responded so well. Thank you so much for all the questions. But the first thing I wanted to talk about was Fit Model Sandy Williamson of she's the promoter of Junior Nationals in Chattanooga, Tennessee, but she's also our head women's chair for the sport of bodybuilding in the IFBB and the NPC. So she just announced her show that she promotes, Junior Nationals, is going to have Fit Model, where it's a pro qualifier, so you can turn pro in Fit Model there. And similar to last year, when the pros that just became pro on that Saturday, the next day on Sunday, there was an Olympia qualifier for all of those new IFBB pros. So the difference this year is that there are no pros that can compete in Fit Model currently for 2025. They're not doing IFBB pros until 2026. So this news means that this is, to my knowledge, the first qualifying show for someone to get their pro card in the category of Fit Model. I know for a fact that Arnold is not doing hosting Fit Model, and I don't know on Junior USA's. Their website is currently down and under construction. So my guess is maybe there's a question mark there. That one might be a Fit Model pro qualifier, but for Junior Nats, you can get your pro card in Fit Model on that Saturday. The next day, you can do the pro show and get qualified for the Olympia in Fit Model. So A through H, everybody that won first place, those will be your new pros. Basically, the overall probably will be the one going to the Olympia. So I just thought that was very interesting.
So if IFBB pros are not allowed to compete until 2026, does that mean that this will be the only year at the Olympia that all of the Fit Model pros will be brand new pros?
So I believe that it means that they won't compete at the Olympia until 2026, period.
Gotcha.
Similar to what they did in wellness. I remember the first year it came out. I remember Renee from the pros in Arizona. She got Olympia qualification one of the years, whatever year it came out. But then they didn't have the Olympia with wellness until the next year. So that part, again, so much new information coming out,
Mhm.
but I think that that's something to consider that they are not, it will qualify them, I believe, in 2026 because I
Gotcha.
don't think they're having the Olympia forfeit model in 2025,
I feel like that's
from what I
why.
understand.
Yeah, it gives them time to really let the category, the new division develop and get judges' feedback and things like that too, and really make that
Yeah.
separation. I remember at least at the amateur level, the local regional show level, there was a lot of crossover when wellness first came out, and it was like trying to make the distinction between the two body looks at the regional level was actually kind of hard, and it was just a matter of switching your suit and switching your posing rather than having a different shape and a different look. So that's probably good that they're waiting if they are.
And speaking of cut, so I know Angel Competition Bikinis, um, use the code shameless plug Glam Girl for a discount. We work with them, pretty exclusively as part of our team, and I know for a fact that Kara, the owner, has been working diligently behind the scenes with the Mannion family, and they just released that they will allow a scrunch. So that has changed as of just like the past week. And I know that there's two different cuts of fabric basically. So, you know, you and I have been wearing the micro cut. Probably the previous year we were wearing like the pro cut. And there's Brazilian, which we've never really worn that in bikini other than back in the day in the OG. So this will be more coverage than Brazilian, but I think they kind of like conceded and realize that if you don't have a scrunch butt, you cannot really tell the definition of the roundness of that shape. So it is a lot more moderate coverage or modest coverage than even Brazilian. Um, and there were two choices that you can make right now. And I know on the fabrics, you can do the matte colors or the metallic. And I was talking to Savannah. She said the most people right now have ordered the pink, which I don't know if they're going for like a different kind of look. I know it's been a little bit popular in bikini, but I feel like the feedback I always get when people wear pink is that they're too washed out under the stage lights. So to me, like I would do the hologram, which is like that metallic fabric.
Mhm.
And then there's also matte, which I think without stones and things, the matte is going to make people a little bit washed out. That's my personal opinion. But again, they have two like cuts. One's more coverage and the other is not, but they're both more than the Brazilian. So that's the latest news. I also just researched the qualifying events in our area, and there's two. So there's the one in Sioux Falls, Iowa, April 12th, and then there's the one
Wait, Sioux Falls,
April
Iowa or Sioux City, Iowa?
Sioux City, sorry. Sioux
Gotcha.
City. Yeah, Sioux Falls is South Dakota.
That's good.
Yeah. So um, those have Fit Model. And then the St. Louis one, the big one, the first Phorm one, I forget what the exact date is. I think it's like the following weekend in April. But I looked and those registrations are open, and I was shocked to see they have 60 plus, 50 plus, 40 plus, 35 plus in Fit Model. They've got teen. They've got true novice, which yes, everybody's true novice, but they also had novice A through D. Well, I guess it's true novice in the NPC, so I
Oh, that means
correct.
if
Yeah,
you competed before in bikini, you couldn't.
yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So, and then I noticed that the height classes in open are A through F, at least at Jack shows. So we are bringing Jack on. I messaged him right after that and just I wanted to pick his brain on this. So if you are interested in any questions from Jack to Tony regarding this division, pop them in the YouTube comments, DM us on Instagram at Prep Life Podcast at Glam Girl Bikini. Let us know what you want to know from him. So he needs the questions ahead of time. We're recording on Thursday. Today is Monday, the 6th. So we'll be recording on Thursday. We'll take those questions up until then, but I think he'll have some good
Questions,
insight.
Steve.
Hmm.
These would be questions for if you want to compete in the fit model division at a regional level this year.
Hmm.
This is the promoter that is putting on a lot of shows in the Midwest. And so, any like practical questions, any confusion with entry fees or how many you can enter, or anything like that, send us those questions in the next couple of days.
Yeah, and the national schedule came out. So just remember that you have to get top two in open to qualify for junior nats. So you'd, and I've from the mouth of Tyler, so I literally have like the documentation that he's responded to my specific question about this. You have to get qualified in Fit Model. So you have to go to a national qualifier, which is a regional event. You have to get, so if you're going to compete as a masters, you're going to have to compete in a masters fit model show. Doesn't matter what your placement is. And then if you want to compete in something like junior nats, where they only allow the top two, um, now national qualification open. So you would have to go to one of these things before June. I think it's the weekend of Father's Day that Junior Nats is. It's always like the 20th, 21st of June. So basically, you have to get your national qualification probably around April or May. Some people, there's a couple of shows in California that are starting in January. So some people could be getting qualified here in the next like 3 weeks or something. I forget which one the muscle contest has. I think it's the LA Fit Expo is the first one of the season, but you can get qualified there. So yeah, I mean, I think this opens up a lot of different opportunities. Bikini still, I noticed on Jack shows is still A through H, Fit Models A through F. So that's still quite a bit of height categories, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
So
I've competed in F and H.
yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, so that's the news.
Big news, hot topic. So yeah, leave us your questions. Reply to the comments and YouTube or DM us on Instagram at Prep Life Podcast. So, are you ready to dive into some questions?
Yes, we have lots of questions from listeners. I'm excited about this.
Very excited. Okay. So our first one is from Christy Lynn. And she asked, her question is, mobility work is so slow. How do you incorporate it? And I'm guessing she means it takes so much time.
hmm
So how do you incorporate mobility work, Amy?
Yeah, so I've been really liking hip overs. I feel like they're a good way for me to open up my hips before I start training glutes, and I will not only I'll warm up my muscle groups, especially for me, I just like the lying glute bridge with a band over my hips and just kind of getting them activated. Then I'll start doing a couple of hip overs. For me, that really helps my
What
mobility.
what is a hip over?
Man, I think people call them different things, but basically, without like, so for listeners, it's going to be hard for me to verbalize like what it looks like. But basically, you're kind of like having your knees at 90 degrees,
Mhm.
like going this way and then flipping over. And I'm doing hand motions on YouTube. So if you're watching,
Are you lying on your back?
yeah,
Lying on
yeah,
your back, knees in 90 degrees, going back and forth?
yeah, kind of like windshield wipers on both
Yes.
sides. And
Yep, that makes
so
sense. Hmm.
those help with mobility. And then I've done in the past when I'm really tight in my hip flexors, where I'll take on a cable, I'll put the back of one of those really large, not the ankle cuffs, but like one of those larger cuffs. I'll put it on the back of my, like right on the back of my hamstring, kneeling on the ground and kind of doing like a psoas stretch, but with that behind it. And so it puts some resistance on it and it really stretches out my hip flexor. Um, but as far as like when I'm doing delt work, I'll do the trap mashing on my on the Smith machine where I put some weight on it and then I like mash out my traps just to get my delts more activated when I'm doing it. But a lot of the mobility stuff that I do is really at night, like with my foam rolling and lacrosse balls and stuff like that. So I'll usually multitask with that where I'll either read a book or watch a show, um, so that I'm not just like sitting there for like an hour trying to do mobility work. I don't
Yeah.
know. That's my answer, but
That's my biggest thing. I always do a warm up on my leg days. I'm not as good at doing it on upper body days, but I always do a warm up on my leg days with the band. But I more think of that as glute activation than mobility.
mhm,
But I've just recently this year started, I found a yoga class at my gym that works into
mhm,
my schedule. And so because it's really hard for me to dedicate time to mobility because it does take up time and I do so much training and cardio as it is. I have to book it or I have to tell someone, hold me accountable to foam roll today. So
mhm.
I make myself accountable by actually booking a yoga class or some sort of mobility class, something like that. I think that's if you need that motivation to get it into your schedule. Just like your regular workouts, book your mobility sessions. Super
Yeah,
important for, I think, for longevity in the gym, but also for muscle activation and for building your muscle. If your mobility is not good, you're not going to be able to reach those deep stretches. You're not going to be able to activate the right muscles to build your body. So it's super important with bodybuilding to get that mobility work in. However, it's not very fun for me. So I have to book actual classes to get myself to do it sometimes.
but Christy, just keep this in mind. It doesn't have to be like an hour session. That's not a rule. It can be as short as like doing a hip over for me. It takes me a couple of minutes, but it really gets the mobility like in my hip flexors in a better spot. The trap stuff, it only takes a couple of minutes. And like the foam rolling, I do for just like a couple of minutes every night. So those just add up over time and they stack up. And like anything is better than nothing. One really big tip that I have, though, that a lot of bikini competitors have issues with is they're so used to posing on one side that their mobility and their spine is not great. And so, I mean, one good thing about me doing that WBFF journey last year was that I had to pose on all sides, and it helped with my mobility a lot. So, yes, rolling out your lats and things like that will help, but I really encourage bikini competitors to pose on both sides just because you'll start to get some like imbalances in flexibility, especially like on one side versus the other.
Mhm. Yep,
So,
that's really good. That's a good tip. Okay. We got another one from Chrissy. So, what is your favorite way to add variety to your training routine, and what are the benefits of adding variety? And this is a really good question for bodybuilders too, because
mhm.
bodybuilders, especially bikini competitors, we have the same, 6 to 10 exercises that work really good for building glutes and hamstrings and your back and shoulders. So, there's lots of ways to add variety for sure.
Yeah, I would say for this one, and I tell my athletes this too, and I put it kind of in their programming is, pick an exercise or a machine that kind of works this muscle group. So based on whatever gym you're at, it's likely that you may not have like one specific kind of like machine or things like that. So I always give like lots of options, but I also encourage people to find a similar like something that emulates that similar movement pattern in a different way and to get creative on subbing out and modifying things like that. And I think that's one thing that kind of just mixes up my routine where I know, like, I need this particular movement pattern, but some days I'll use a machine, some days I'll use dumbbells, some days I'll use like cable. Um, just think it kind of helps me mentally, like, especially if I'm at a new gym or trying something where there's new equipment, where it's a novelty, where you're still achieving the same time under tension for that muscle group, but it's kind of fun to like discover a new modality, in working the same muscle group. So,
I think all of that is great. I think the biggest one for me is like what you said is switching up the gym that I go to. And I know that
mhm.
not everyone has that like ability or
Yeah.
the ability to go to several different gyms. I have a membership that has like my Genesis has so many different locations that have different equipment to use. But then I
Yep.
also have membership to a couple of other gyms. And so it's really easy for me to just add variety by just the different machines. However, I also like to like let's just use the hip thrust for example. I pretty much have that in my glutes and hamstring days, twice a week, maybe sometimes 3 times a week,
Yeah.
all like the hip thrust is just a
Hmm.
staple movement that I always use. But what I like to do is switch up my sets and reps. And so sometimes I will do like 2 warm-up sets and then I'll hit a top set and I'll do like 3 to 4 top sets. Sometimes I'll do like a ladder or a pyramid where you're building up the weight and then you do a burnout. Sometimes I'll just find a working set, hammer out reps and switch up the volume. What I like to do is pick one of those reps and set schemes. And if you have a coach, they'll have programmed that for you, and do that for a good few weeks so that I can push the weight and see progress. But then I'll mix it up. So then the next time, and I do this with my athletes a lot too, where, we'll do one where we do pyramid because it allows them to push really heavy weights at low, once they're warmed up at low reps. And then maybe the next block, I'll do warm up sets and then top sets where they know how much weight they can push for those heavy sets and they can try and push the reps. And then we might mix it up and do a little bit of a deload where it's just more volume, less weight, something like that. So that's a good way to mix it up and give you a good 3, 4 months of programming with the exact same movement.
Yeah, I like to also set gym dates with people and just work out with different people. Um, I know my Sundays, like I'll be working out with Marlene and it just gives me like a different vibe and things like that. Or I think just also doing things, especially in your improvement season when you have a little bit of time, like implementing like a new class, like a yoga class, as long as it doesn't go against like what your ultimate goal, what you're trying to achieve, especially if you're Gen Pop, just taking group exercise classes, doing group training, those can be really great ways to mix things up. And I mean, for me, I had to, we have the snowmageddon over here, so it's been 11 inches of accumulation of snow, and obviously all of our gyms are closed right now. And I just dusted off the cobwebs off my booty sprout, and like you said, like there's a
What?
million ways to do hip thrusts, but a booty sprout, have you ever heard of that? I used it a
Oh,
lot during COVID. Yeah, I don't have any setup for a hip thrust. I have a cable crossover at my house, so I
Huh?
can do like
Yep.
RDLs, like standing squats, stuff like that, and kickbacks. And abduction, but I really don't have like a setup for a hip thrust. So this booty sprout, it's like the setup that you would use with the 12-inch where you do the hip thrust, but you put these straps over it and they're like bands of resistance that go over your hips, and there's like three levels. Maybe I can,
That's
it's really,
amazing. No, that
yeah,
sounds killer.
it's like really portable. It folds up so you can. I've taken it on road trips. Like during COVID, I took it to the Gulf Shores, and it's very, you know, like lightweight and it fits in a very small area. And so, yeah, I did that today, and I tried to think of different ways that I could, I didn't have an abduction machine, and that was on my programming. So, I did some work on some different things, and I think just mixing things up out of your normal schedule is just a fun way to add variety.
I think that's a great answer for the next question too, which was what do you recommend when people are feeling mentally burned out in the gym? So I also coach group classes at a gym called F45, and I've been able to utilize that for my HIIT cardio in prep. But
Mm.
last week I jumped into a class that was a weights, like a resistance training class. And this specific class had the room was split. And so you could choose whether to do lower body or upper body. And it was my upper body day. And so I was like, oh, I'll just do the upper body movements. And most of the movements were shoulders or back or, some chest movements, some bicep curls, things like that. I was like, this will be fine. And the difference between training time under tension. So all of our classes are not reps based, they're times based. And so
Okay.
for me, I'm competitive. I'm gonna go till the end of the buzzer, which is how I coach my athletes. That's how I'm gonna do. But the I had to go down in weight. It was much more muscle fatigue, fighting through that burn, just mixing it up and adding in that for my upper body day just in the off season was just it was really fun. I was super sore the next day. One of the movements was pull-ups. And so I'm trying to do pull-ups for like 35 seconds. That's
Oof,
really hard.
that's hard.
So
Yeah.
mixing it up like that or finding a gym buddy is
Uh-huh.
so good to just make the gym fun again. You don't necessarily have to change what you do, but just changing the atmosphere, getting somebody to do it with you to make
Yeah.
it fun helps a ton.
Yeah. And you can always do like a free pass. I remember my training partner and we had this 1 month where we just literally got every single gym in this area. We got a free pass to each one, and we just like sampled different vibes because we were kind of like gym shopping. And then I was just in Arizona and I got a free pass at the YMCA. That was just like kind of a fun just change of scenery. And then I, let my coach know that I wasn't going to do, I usually have access to my treadmill at home and it's easy for me to do my cardio. Well, instead, I just scheduled some sort of hike in one of like the mountains. Like they have so many hiking trails in Arizona, and just getting outside. I know Christy lives around here. So sorry, Christy, you probably don't want to like trek through the snow, but just getting outside and doing an outside workout can be a great way to prevent burnout as well, and getting in the fresh air and just a change of scenery in that way. But I guess you can do the change of scenery inside or outside if you really want.
Inside or out, yep, mix
Yeah.
it up, change it up as much as you can. And I think also a great time to do that is now when most of us are in our improvement season
Hmm.
because you have a little bit more leeway and you have more calories. So if you can afford to throw in an extra class or an extra cardio session or something like that, now is the time to do it. Without being in such a low calorie deficit and having so many things you have to tick off your box in prep. So I'm always trying to find ways for my athletes to get refreshed and recovered and relaxed and have fun so that mentally they are feeling ready to get back on prep too.
Yeah. Yeah. And so her next question is, what is your biggest tip for staying patient while recovering from an injury? And I think that with this, you really have to, first and foremost, make sure you get guidance from a doctor. Make sure you have a set plan on protocol that you need to do in terms of whether it's some sort of rehab, physical therapy, the amount of time you need to take off from that injury. My recommendation is if it's a certain body part, kind of trying to work around that. Like, for example, I was just giving one of my clients advice that was kind of getting plantar fasciitis, but she still needs to do cardio. Well, you can very easily do like a rowing machine, a ski erg, some battle ropes, some med ball slams. You can work around it and still get your heart rate up in that regard. Or, you know, if you had surgery on like your arm or something, then you can still do lower body workouts. Like, try to do whatever you can within that scope of what's allowed and just get creative. And I would recommend, any form of physical therapy and things that you can do to help aid that process to move along. There's a lot of just really great things like muscle activation therapy. I know that was a game changer for me when I had hurt my shoulder. It was like a miracle on my joint. So I think that there's just a lot of things offered right now that, you can do chiropractic work, all that stuff. So what are your thoughts?
I would all of that, yes. I know like as competitors, it drives us nuts to stay out of the gym. So I would definitely get the recommendation from your healthcare professional on what you can do, what is allowed. And then for those, all of those cardio ideas that you said are awesome, or hire, get a personal trainer for just a couple of sessions to give you ideas on how to build a workout. But then also, don't let it spiral into your nutrition. So if
Mm,
you are,
I was just going to say that too.
yeah, if you
It's
have
gonna
to
be my next
stay
thing.
home from the gym, don't let it go, piggyback onto your nutrition. Stay on point with your nutrition because this is going to be super important to holding on to those muscle gains so that you can quickly get back on track as soon as you're approved to work out. It's going to help keep fat loss going or maintenance so that you're not putting on fat body fat. And then also, it's going to help with the healing process. You want to make sure you are fueling your body with high quality, nutrient dense, all of your vitamins, all of your minerals. Get that variety. Put all of your mental and physical energy into eating the best way that you can to help with healing that injury and then to set you up for quick, fast catch up as soon as you're approved to get back in the gym.
Yeah. Well, are we at that time limit where we need to do a part two, or do we have a couple of quick ones that we
Let's
can
do
kind
a
of
couple
end
of
with?
quick ones. Let's
Okay.
knock out. Let's knock out two more.
Okay.
I want to know this one for you because you're the queen of hacks when it comes to dieting. This is from my client, Hannah Joe. What is your best diet hack when cutting? Or I know you have so many, so I want to know like what is a recent one that you've discovered?
Yeah, this one, man, it's just like I've I realized when I went to Arizona, I was like helping my sister with just like cutting out calories and just beverages and things, and I got her hooked on my almond milk frother. And she's just like addicted to sweets like I am, where we both have a sweet tooth. And I mean, honestly, like just showing her the frother that you can buy on Amazon for like $19 and then showing her the type of that blue diamond almond milk that froths up so well. And then the crazy cups that have right now I'm on the mint chocolate chip
Mm.
kick of decaf and then swirling like the caramel 0 calorie. This whole beverage was like 30 calories. And normally she'll have her daughter like make her a hot chocolate with like chocolate shavings and whipped cream and so many calories, right? And so I feel like my brain just works like that, where I just try to think of like the lowest level of calories. And then I had her try my ice cream, which is only 140 calories. It's basically a scoop of protein powder with the Ninja Creamy. And she's like, oh my gosh, like this is so. And then she's like, well, how much is it? And I'm like, think about this. I'm like, a pint of Halo Top is about $7 now. And one scoop of First Form Level 1 protein powder, the whole can is like $50. And the investment of the creamy is like 150. But I would say my most recent best hack is my konjac noodles. You can get linguine, angel hair. They're 0 calories. They give you so much volume. And even in my improvement season, I'm eating them like twice a day. A whole package is 12 calories, and you just feel
Hey.
like you're eating pasta.
Mhm.
And I have to say that that's my best hack recently. That got me through this last prep, just discovering those, and I order those on Amazon. But you can also find them in the like mushroom section of some grocery stores. And yeah, I just order mine on Amazon and I love them. I think that's my biggest hack because it gives me so much volume. I feel like I'm eating like this huge plate of pasta and it's hardly any calories.
I think a lot of the time, isn't there something like we eat with our eyes first too? So like even though something like that or like a huge salad or a big bowl of soup, something like that might not like give us tons of calories, we get that feeling like we are eating for a long time.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
like psychological, a lot of it. And
for
so
sure.
my most recent prep, um, this was like for me, I realized this and then I saw it. I was able to use it in coaching an athlete as well. My
Uh-huh.
biggest hack was actually mental, and it was that you have to be, you have to find peace with hunger. And I know that
Yeah.
like this is just like a thing, like you probably have known this forever, but like for me, it was a real revelation on my last prep because I do have all the hacks. And one of my biggest hacks actually is looking at nutrition facts of different brands because there's even like a 5 to 10 calorie difference in different creamers or different almond milks. There might be a 5 to 10
Mhm.
carb difference in different drinks or protein powder.
Yogurts, I've noticed a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, powders, bars, that type of thing. So like all products in a certain category are not created equal. So
Yeah.
really get good at finding those low calorie, low carb options. But
Hmm.
also mentally, you are going to be hungry. And that's just going to happen. And you have to be able to trust that your body is getting enough nutrients and you can just be at peace mentally, take some big deep breaths, drink some water, and not like for me, it was like I would almost get this panic when I was getting towards the end of my meal because it was like, oh
Hmm.
no, I'm not full yet. And it was like I had to just like take a breath, slow down, be at peace with it is fine for you not to feel stuffed right now. You have enough. Give yourself 20 minutes and you'll feel satisfied. Like slow
Hmm.
down. Middle of the afternoon, if you start like feeling like, oh my gosh, I'm so hungry, or late at night, it's like, oh my gosh, I'm so hungry. What do I do? Like, it's okay. That means your body's going to burn fat. Like, be at peace with and come to terms with the fact that when you're cutting, you are going to be hungry sometimes. And if you have a good coach, they are making sure that you are being properly fueled because you definitely don't want to overdo it and not be eating anything. Like we all know, like this is a sport that you kind of ride the line a little bit, but you definitely want to be healthy. You want to be hitting all of your markers for getting in enough food. And it's bodybuilding, right? So we want
Yeah.
to be eating enough protein and everything. But as far as cravings and hunger goes, you kind of just have to be okay with it.
Yeah, there's something beautiful about that and almost like not to get woo-woo, but like almost a spiritual level of actually knowing true hunger. A lot of us have the luxury of never having to actually experience what true hunger really is. And to feel that is something you do have to lean into because it's inevitable. It is going to happen no matter how much volume you try to incorporate. There's going to be a period of time when you're prepping to get show lean that you are just going to feel plain hungry and you just have to lean into it and know like okay, I just always think of like Pac-Man's like eating up my fat cells like
Yes,
whenever
I love that. That's
I
a
just
really good point, though. I mean, even if yes, it does sound spiritual, but even if you're not spiritual, like to just relate to populations that don't have the privilege of being able to be full anytime that they want, like they don't have the abundance that we have in America. And
yeah.
that might even just help you to be like, wow, what a privilege to be in prep and be able to relate to people that don't have what I have
Hmm.
every day.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I've kind of thought about that over the last year. I don't know why, but it just like it's something I thought about. So we do have a lot more questions and they're really good. So
So I think we
don't
should
forget.
probably definitely do a part two.
Yes, we'll definitely do a part two. Don't forget to pop in the questions for the interview with Jack Titone that we can ask those on Thursday. So if you feel it in your heart, please leave a rating and review. That just helps other people that are interested in the same topics kind of find us with the algorithm. And I know it's not an easy thing to do, but it's kind of the way of just paying it forward to others because that helps those people find us. And we do want to stay ad free. And if you would like to join our team or get coaching from either one of us, you can go to glamgirlbikini.com and hit the get started button. Thanks for listening, guys.